Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
It's Tuesday night, time for another live Wicked Horror Show. I'm Kevin, and as always, I'm joined by Tony has no fingers.
What is going on, people?
And Tony, would you like to introduce our very special guest?
Sure. He's a writer, director, actor, fellow TikToker. We always talk about TikTok. So one of the lives he was talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm in the movie business. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea. But Nerdy Dustin 2.0 on TikTok, Dustin Vitale. Hopefully I said that right. Is that? I'm horrible with last names. So
it's Vitale.
Okay. I didn't know if it was the long E but Dustin Vitale. How's it going?
It's going really good. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
So yeah, Tony was like, oh, there's this guy. You do lives with him every once in a while, I guess. And he's like, yeah, well, I figured we'd have him on. I'm like, yeah, definitely. Might as well.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Cool. So you've dabbled in the independent film world for a bit. Looking at your IMDb, you've been involved in some cool projects. So I know I'd put up one of them, and then you're like, oh, let's do Malcolm. So I switched it up. So you want to talk about Malcolm, which is the next movie that you're involved in that's coming out?
Yes, my next movie is called Malcolm. It's about a serial killer with split personalities. It's a fantastic film. It's very different, too, in the way we shot it. So it was originally 7 short films that we decided to combine into one giant film, and we went and shot a beginning and an end to make it an actual film. And it's super fantastic. I love it to death. So yeah, that'll be out. It should be on Amazon Prime sometime in October, as well as the Reveal streaming service. And then we do have it in a couple movie theaters for a limited time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, excited for that. And then the other one is the Racker House that you all were gonna. That was my previous film that you can watch on the Trauma Now streaming service. It's a very different film. It's very it's another horror movie, but just the way we shot it again. It's black and white. We really amazing, horrible special effects. It's great. You'll love it. If you love exploitation films, if you love anything Lloyd Kaufman does, you're gonna love the Racker House. So definitely check that out.
Well, that's I'm Team Trauma for sure. For some reason, Sergio's saying sorry. I don't know why, Sergio, but what's up, Serge? And then we have Life is Pain, who's he says he follows you as well on TikTok. And
what's up?
And we have Chadwick.
Oh, there's Chadwick. Chadwick is the writer director behind Malcolm.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks for joining us in the chat and everything. So your Life is Pain. What does he go by on TikTok, Tony? TikTok, Tony?
Exploit hatred.
There you go.
Which he actually, it's probably like, what time is it now here? 9. So it's probably like 2:00 in the morning. I believe it's in UK, correct?
I believe so. I always forget. I don't know why. He's here like all the time. And I always forget where he's at. But I don't know. I apologize. Life is Pain. So how did you get into all of this? Like, I'm assuming you're a movie fan. At what point in your life you're like, I need to get involved in this stuff?
Yeah, so I grew up loving movies. I come from a single mother. She was obsessed with movies, so she got me obsessed with movies. And then my first job, my sophomore year of high school, was a movie projectionist. This is back when we still did reel-to-reel at the theaters. So I got that job, and then my love for film got to where, well, I want to make movies. So ended up going to film school for a little while down at West Palm Beach Film School, which is no longer open, which is sad. Now everyone just goes to Full Sail. Was going to film school. I was like, you know what? I think it was like 6 months into it. I was like, this isn't for me because I mean, I'm paying all this money for stuff I already know. I'm not learning anything. I didn't realize that you kind of go to film school for the connections. Dropped out of film school, realized that, well, now I have like $70,000 worth of debt. So that took me away from the film world, and I ended up having to, pay all that debt off. So I got a real job for a while. Got married, divorced, and opened a gaming store, and that failed. So this is now 2018, and I was like, you know what? I'm single. I've got nothing right now. I'm gonna go do what I've always wanted to do, and I'm gonna join the movie world. So I decided to start doing background work because it's the perfect way to get into the industry. That led me to meeting a bunch of cool people, and I started getting acting gigs. And then I was like, you know what? I want to try the directing. So I started doing a couple short films, and that got me into the producing. So now my main job is I produce and I market films. So that's my life story.
That's a lot though. Like, so if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I will be 37 in 4 weeks.
Well, that's you've lived a lot in the 37 years. You've done a lot of things that I'm jealous of. So that's pretty great. And I got you beat by 10 years. So I'm 10 years older than you are. I am ancient. So, but yeah, and there's all these things like, well, one of these days I'm going to do this. Next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years. Yuck. Let me see. Here's of Unusual Origin. Look at these three sexy motherfuckers. That's Steve McMahon, who he was a guest host on one of the episodes a little while back. He's a good dude. That show, Nerds of Unusual Origin, is also a very solid podcast, very good. And he's very close to me. Like, he lives right down the street, but I still have never done the show because I suck, I guess. We also they drink beer and they like rate it and stuff like that, and I don't drink, so I just would be a.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we have Ephraim. What's up, guys? Good juju.
AKA Mr. Mullet Man on TikTok.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be getting some of you guys' TikTok peeps coming through. Tony's like most of like when we first started talking and stuff, he was just doing pretty much YouTube, and then we were all in the same boat. Like, we're all just like, we're struggling for views, whatever. And like, because I did movie reviews and stuff too, and I kind of gave up because I was going broke. I was buying new movies like every week and paying a mortgage and avoiding my wife murdering me for buying movies. And then he switched over to TikTok, and he's doing well. So I'm proud of him.
Yeah, it's definitely the best platform and one of the most simple. Like, the thing is with YouTube, it's like you do all the work and then you have to. I never edited anything. I always felt that if I mess up, you're going to know I mess up. So that's one thing I cut out. But still, sitting there, you do the video, and then it takes like 30 minutes to upload, and then it's, okay, now I got to share it everywhere, and everybody hated it at that point in time. So I'm like, if you're going to watch it, you're going to watch it. And then I went just to Instagram, really, just posting pictures. And I'm like, whatever, let me just try TikTok. And I was only going to do it for a joke. And I'm like, and then I found a movie community, and I'm just like, why not? Let me try this. And it's done wonders, I guess. I mean, like I said, met so many awesome people like Dustin and everybody. And there's another person I want to get on here too, Steven, who does documentaries and stuff.
Yes.
And it's just like learning like stuff you never knew before. And, Dustin was like, yeah, I'm in the movie industry. And I'm like, wait, what? Huh? He's like, yeah, you didn't know I did all that. I'm like, well, looks like I didn't do too much research, but, he took that extra step. We said it many times because we've had people on here that are like 16, 17 years old directing, and it's just like, well, you took that next step that some people say they want to, but then they never do. So
right. I've even tried like going your method, Dustin, and I tried doing the background stuff, and I've put in for so many movies. They've been filming a lot of bigger stuff in central Massachusetts the last couple of years, and I've never been called for anything. which makes me feel like $1 million. Like I'm not even good enough to be in the background of the all-female Ghostbusters reboot.
I got lucky in that aspect. So Danny McBride, Jody Hill, David Gordon Green, they all moved to Charleston and set up their studio here, which is Rough House Pictures. I have it somewhere on my hat here. So I'm able to do a lot of background extra work with those guys and work with them and stuff. So I just got really lucky that they decided to move right next to me, and that all worked out. So that's how I've been on Righteous Gemstones, Halloween Kills, all that fun stuff.
Oh, nice. That's cool. I was talking about Righteous Gemstones with one of my coworkers today, actually.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. Good show. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally behind on it, but it is Danny McBride. I've really enjoyed everything he's done. Eastbound and Down is phenomenal. Serge, I get it. He's just commenting that he didn't know that we were on. So no worries, Serge. We got you. And then Ephraim's, you said was it Mr. Mullet Man?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, has to come through. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that's
Steven, aka OTS Movies.
Oh.
He's the guy who did the documentary and stuff. Okay. We got to get him on.
I'm a big fan of documentaries. I'm a quality documentary.
So OTS, that's Stephen Lackey. Actually, I think the next movie I'm working on is a movie with him. I know we're doing a documentary later on in the year. But I just checked out his recent documentary. It's called Family of Fear. It's honestly one of the best documentaries I've seen in the past 20 years. It's so good. It's currently on Tubi and available on Amazon. But y'all need to get him on. He is the most knowledgeable person I know in this industry. It's wild.
He might be a rival to Wolfie. I mean, Wolfie might have him a little bit. But he's doing this whole 150 movies in a year he wants to go see. So he's got that going on TikTok and stuff. But he's the next TikToker we're gonna get on here. But did you always have that plan of going from acting to directing, and then now you're producing and stuff? But did you always have that plan laid out, or just like everything else, kind of just fell in your lap and you're like, okay, well, I did this, now I'm going to do this, or?
So the acting thing and the background work, I still do background extra work when I can, but the acting thing was I did it and I was like, oh, this is not for me at all. I do not enjoy this at all. So when you're acting, right, and you're filming scenes, you have to, they film a scene and they cut and they start setting up the next scene. And then I might not be in that scene, but I'm in the following scene. So I'm just standing in the background watching. And I'm watching these guys make this movie. And I'm like, oh, man, this is fun. This is what I could do. I like this. So that's when I got with my buddy, fellow actor Noah Drake Bell. And I was like, hey, dude, we were working on The Righteous Gemstones season 2 at the time. And I was like, dude, let's make a short film, right? We don't have work for the next 2 weeks. We're not in the next 2 weeks worth of scenes. Let's go take a weekend and make a short film. So we made this short film called Rideshare Massacre, and I had the most fun directing and making that film than I had doing anything else in this industry. So I was like, this is what I want to do, right? And then the producing stuff, that's just come recently within the past year. I started doing that. I did it for a couple of my buddies. And I was like, oh, no, this is what I want to do. So now that's what I mainly do. Producing movies is so much fun. You got to help finance it. You got to find the money, right? You got to get the people to make it. You're just, as a producer, you're literally involved in every aspect of the film. And I absolutely love that. And marketing film, that is a ton of fun, So that's where it landed. But no, the acting was just the game plan. Well, that's what I was going to do until I did it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. I've always wanted to dabble in stuff, and I've been bad enough to be cut out of a movie, so that's a plus. But the only claim to, it's not even a claim to fame, but like I've got some music in a Trauma release, so that was like a bucket list thing for me. It's not it's nothing like Lloyd didn't make it, but he released it. And so I was like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm in a Trauma movie. All right. That's what it is. But I'm a big Trauma guy. We've actually had Lloyd on a bunch of times too. He's a crazy dude. I love him to death.
He really is, but he's awesome. He's awesome.
We'd come out with dolls and we're like, oh, this is Taylor Swift or whatever he was saying. And he's like making them dance. I'm like, this is awesome. Like the first time we had him on, after the show, we figured he could be like, all right, guys, thanks. I'm out. He kept us on for a whole other hour after that. he introduced us to his wife. He was walking around the house, like showing us. He was trying to sell us on Blue Apron because I guess his son-in-law is the creator of Blue Apron, and he was like trying to sell us really hard on it. I'm like, if you can give me it for free, I'll be down. But other than that, let me see. So Steve was saying, is that a SM7B I see, or are you just happy to see me, or happy to be on here? Sorry. And Sergio saying hi to Nerdy. And
Hi.
then Steve's also saying, speaking of short films, Kevin, we've been slacking. Yeah, we were talking about it. And actually with Angel, that popped in as well, because he wants to be more of like a cinematographer kind of dude. Angel does. Anyways, for me, I don't care. I'll just do whatever. I'll just get in the way. I've only been on like one real movie set, and I agree, it looked like a very good time.
It depends. Right. So I've being on an independent film set, I love it. There's 20, 30 people at max. But then when you get on like a Warner Brothers picture and there's 500 people, you're just like this. Nope, I'm out.
The one that I was on, besides Talking with the Dead, like I was a zombie for that. That was smaller. But I was on, and I know a lot of people don't like the movie. It had a lot of promise. And then actually, I really think that some of the people that were doing some of the funding may have stepped in and kind of ruined it a little bit. But there was a movie that was filming at a prison in
Pennsylvania.
And we were there, and there was like prison riots and all this other stuff. And like every horror icon that was available for the most part was in this movie. And I don't know. It was a really good time on set. I got to see some stuff like right after it was being shot, and it looked amazing. And then when it came out, I was like, oh man, what happened? So that kind of sucks. But it was still really cool just to see it happen.
Yeah, it's never fun getting your stuff cut. So on the Righteous Gemstone season 2, I did an Uber driver scene that got cut. I was a right-wing conservative that got cut. So a lot of stuff gets cut, but at the end of the day, you still get paid.
Yeah,
and that's what
you
matters.
Still get to experience. Like, who did you have scenes with?
So the Uber driver scene, that was Danny and Cassie Freeman. The right-wing conservative, that was everybody. There was Danny, Cassidy, Edie Patterson, which I love Edie Patterson. She's the greatest person on the planet. And then Adam Devine and Tony. I can't remember Tony's last name off the top of my head, but it was basically everybody. So with those scenes, we were like in front of the mega church, pretending to be right-wing conservatives, going against the COVID stuff. So they ended up cutting like most of the COVID stuff out of season 2. I think Walter Goggin, he had some stuff in there that they kept, but most of the COVID stuff didn't make it in for obvious reasons. So, but yeah, it's I did this film Enzo where I'm a boxing ref, and all of my like dialogue is cut out of the entire thing. It just ends up being I'm just this ref walking around the boxing ring, doing hand signs and stuff, but none of my dialogue makes it in. And so it happens. It happens. Sometimes your stuff gets cut.
If I was in Gemstones, I would have been kicked off set first day as soon as I saw Walter, and I would have just been like, Shane, because I'm a big fan of The Shield.
Oh, oh man, it's so hard. So my favorite actor of all time is John Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
And my first day on set, my first scene in the entire show was with John Goodman.
Oh, wow.
And we're all coming back into holding, and he's right behind me. And it took everything in my being not to just stop, turn around, and start talking with him.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that kind of stuff on a set.
Right.
But it's really hard.
I would have just started quoting stuff.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, excuse me." I'm like, "You can't roll on Shabbos." And then he's like, "Get out."
Yes.
Or I've mentioned something horrible about King Ralph because that movie sucks.
Oh no!
I saw it in the theater. That's how old I am. I saw King Ralph in the theater.
That's awesome.
Correct. I saw it in the theater. But I actually was just talking to someone last night. There's a new podcast that I'm doing with an actress that was in the first Scream. It's me and my friend Jeremy. She doesn't know a lot about horror, and it's called The Re-Education of Nancy Ann Ritter. And so we're just schooling her on some old, like some classic horror, classic iconic horror. not really classic, I guess, but and she was talking about a movie that she was in with John Goodman as well. It was the guy who did Welcome to the Dollhouse. He made this movie as well. I forget what it was called, but and of course she went off on it. And I was like, oh, and she's like, oh, and there's full frontal nudity. I'm like, John Goodman's naked in this movie, like. Cool. I enjoy him quite a bit. I love John Goodman.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
You have those stories for the rest of your life, you know.
Yeah, I do, and it's John does this thing too when he's walking away from you, and he's just walking in general. He's always singing.
Oh yeah.
And me and John have a mutual friend, Mark Christopher Lawrence. And I asked him about, after I had done the season 2 of Gemstones, I called up Mark and I was like, hey, you're good friends with John Goodman. Does he normally, when he's walking away from you, does he just start singing out of no? He's like, dude, John's been doing that since the 70s. Like, that's just who he is. I was like, okay, cool. That's a normal thing. That's nice to know.
You're just like, is it just one thing he does when he's around people that he hates? Or is it like,
right?
It's like, I can't stand these people. Whoa,
Oh man! And then I remember, I noticed the first time I met Danny McBride, he had too much makeup on, and we were out in the sun, the down in South Carolina. It's 100 degrees out, sun's out, and he was glistening like an angel. Like, it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
That's pretty awesome, though. Like that. I mean, it's one thing to be an extra on something, but to be an extra on something that's awesome as well. Yeah, that helps. Like, so if I got into the all-female Ghostbusters, you know, I didn't hate the movie as much as everyone else did, but still, pretty much everyone else hated that movie. There's so much worse out there. There's so much.
In case anybody who's listening, I raise my hand. If you're not watching,
whatever.
Once I saw the Let the Power of Patty Compel You, I was like, nope. No, thank you. Then I watched it just to watch it, and I'm like, no. It fell short. But anyway, I digress.
We all got different opinions, right? I try to find good in everything. Sometimes I can't. And then you know it's a real stinker. You're like, I can't find any good in this.
Now, you said you were, going to go to, you learn that going to film school got you, contacts more than anything. With doing this background work, if you're ever doing, okay, let me make a new movie. Let me see if maybe I can get, a name in. You said you're not supposed to do it on set, but building these relationships might help you out in the long run towards the end. And it's like, maybe I can get, everybody needs that marquee name to promote something, even if they're in it for like a quick second. Like, you ever think about that?
No, not really on the, no, because, okay, if you're a background extra, you're not allowed to do anything unless you're told to. So I can't really even attempt to make those connections. But over the past 5 years, I've built such a network now where I have the contacts in the back of my pocket. I can call anyone I need to for anything. So you do build those relationships over time. And you got to think, a lot of these people that are background extras or the PAs or hell, even people in craft services, I mean, they eventually are going and doing what you're doing too. So you're making those connections, and then they remember you and you start to work with them. But yeah, at the end of the day, the entire industry is all about who you know.
Yeah, and there are like a kind of a friend of mine that I know from the network and in cons and stuff. He was out of work, and there was a job. They were just looking for people to help on set, and now he gets on because, like I said, they're filming a lot of bigger movies in the area, and he gets to, he's a I don't know what the term is,
PA or something
like that. I don't know. But yeah, he, like, if it's a boring time on set or whatever, he'll just talk. He's like, I was talking baseball with Paul Giamatti, just because we had nothing.
Oh
else
yeah,
to
that
do.
happened.
Yeah.
If an actor talks to you, then it's fair game. Then you can go to. I've had conversations with John. I've had conversations with Danny. I've had conversations with Adam. It's just. It helps if you're in the same scene with them and you got to break for a second for something, and then they'll start conversating with you. But you can't conversate with them unless they initiate it.
Yeah, don't be. So guys, let's do right. High five all the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Now, since you said, did you grow up on trauma movies or?
Oh yeah. I grew up on Trauma. The Toxic Avenger all day. Nuke 'Em High. I grew up on all of it. I love Lloyd. I love Trauma. I love exploitation films. I'm obsessed with the black exploitation films of the 70s. Grindhouse. I love all that stuff. That to me, that's film, right? Like, just the stuff they put out nowadays. These big epic franchises. I miss the good old days.
Yeah,
so
give me some Pam Grier, and I'll call it a day. Pam Grier with a wicked face and Sid Haig. But the actually a couple other guys that I do a show with, they do a show called Terrible Delights, and it's all about that Grindhouse stuff, about like all the movies that would play in like Times Square way back in the 70s when it was just nothing but smut in like Times Square.
That's amazing.
It's a pretty good show, but that's all they talk about is that. They'll like talk about one movie every week. So maybe that's something you want to check out. But yeah, I love that stuff too. Again, same deal growing up on Trauma. I don't even remember the first time it must have just been box art at a rental store or something where I'm like, this looks crazy. And I was sold. But yeah, and that's why it was a big deal for me. Like when we had the option to get music in that movie, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good now. This is awesome. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out too. Like he's got a lot of like newer things that there's some other really talented people that are involved in as well that I'm really looking for. I really want to see Shakespeare Shitstorm. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Zach Amico, who's like a big part of that movie. I'm a fan of his stand-up and his like everything. So like, I interviewed him up in Buffalo at a film festival a handful of years ago, and before he came in, like the guy that was running, he's like, "Oh, hopefully it's not like it was last time." I'm like, "What happened last time?" He's like, "At one point he just stood up and stapled his nutsack to a table." Because he does that kind of stuff, like he does like the gross stuff, and he does wrestling and all this other stuff too. Yeah, I wicked want to see these things. I just don't know. I have to bite the bullet and sign up for the Trauma streaming service. I know it's like free for like a month, but I don't want to get rid of it after that. I'm sure, right?
Yeah, it's an amazing, one of the best streaming services by far. There's always something to watch.
Right.
If you love that stuff, that's
That's the thing is I did the Full Moon one once for a little bit, and I'm like, there's really not much. Like everything that I wanted to see, I already own. So it's like, but I canceled it. It was mostly to get some free movies out of con, but whatever. It is what it is. Sergio's asked if we have a trailer. We do have a trailer. We'll play it in a little bit. We have the trailer for Malcolm. We'll talk about that in a second. But so do you have anything else in the works? I know like Malcolm is the next one to come out, but what do you have after that?
Like I said, I've got the documentary with Steven. It's I don't really know what I can talk about with it right off the top. But we do have an NDA in place, so it's going to be a documentary I'm making with Steven and a few other guys. That's something that we're working on. But I did just start up my own podcast called Movies After Dark with Steven and Movies with Leo from TikTok, where we just literally pick random movies from our collections each week. We did Troll 2, we did Chef with Jon Favreau, we did Tremors. So it's just random movies, and we just talk about them and then just bullshit with each other. So it's a ton of fun.
That's what friends do. Like when I get together, me and my friend Mike, we'll just sit there and talk about movies for like 4 hours. Like, why aren't we recording this? I don't know.
There was a few times where we went on live, and it was like, you do realize it's like 3:00 in the morning. It's like, yeah, I got to go to bed. And the only time I stayed up that late was when I had no work the next day. But it's like you get immersed. Like someone asked about starting a podcast. I decided to, stream at least, a couple, like 40 minutes before this and promote it and stuff. So people ask questions and they're like, do you think starting a podcast was like a good idea? I'm like, it's, some of my favorite times, like decompressing, coming on a Tuesday, just hanging out. It's like, that's what I love. And being able to talk, I love movies. So being able to talk to people in the movies and behind the scenes and stuff and learn stuff that I've never knew about before.
Even like if we don't have a guest, even just talk about movies we're excited about that are coming out, stuff like that. That's fun too. Like I don't know. Yeah, I think it's worth it if you find them interesting, right? There's a lot of different podcasts out there. There's no way I could ever do a true crime podcast, even though I love them. I could never do one because I'm just not that focused. You know, I have a shitty day at work, and I'm like, I just want to talk about movies now. I just want to watch Shudder and call it a day. You know, but it's so. Yeah, I agree with you, Tony. And are you seeing that so far yourself, Dustin, with the new show?
Which new show is that?
With your new podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We do it every Sunday night, and yeah, it's just so great to sit down after a long week and just talk about movies with your friends. That's the coolest part about it for sure. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love talking movies, and actually it's been wild. You know, the industry's on strike, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff we can't ever talk about now. So that's been pretty depressing. So it's cool to talk about the older films. Gives us a reason to.
Yeah, we even older pre-code stuff just to see what they get away with, and there's so much just history out there. There's always something to talk about in a movie. You want to play the trailer for Malcolm, and then we'll come back and talk about some other stuff.
Awesome.
It's about a minute and 53 seconds, and again, this is in October. You'll be able to see it on Amazon. And what was the other streaming service?
It's Amazon, the Reveal streaming service, and then we'll have it in a couple of movie theaters.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Here's the trailer for Malcolm, and we'll be right back.
Malcolm, what are you doing? I am doing something I should have done a long time ago.
We're doing a house-to-house. We're looking for this missing girl.
All the bodies are piling up here in this neighborhood for months now, and all the fingers are pointing to you.
You had your chance, pussy, but now I'm shutting you out. I'm going to bust out of this place all by myself. But first, some unfinished business.
There you go. There's the trailer for Malcolm. Again, in October, it'll be on Amazon streaming and other places. I already forgot the name of the other one. I've never heard of the other one. What is it called again?
I've never heard of it either. One of our producers was doing all the getting it on all the sites and stuff like that, and I've never heard of it either. But yeah, it's another streaming service. So. There's so many streaming services now, so I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned Tubi earlier, and I don't know if it's true, but there was a filmmaker who made a little gem called "Don't Fuck in the Woods." I don't know if you've heard of it. And he said that he made more money off of Tubi than he ever made off of Amazon.
Yes, and we're working right now to get Malcolm on Tubi. Tubi is an amazing outlet for filmmakers. They definitely do pay the most, and right now it is extremely hard to make money in film. It's not like it used to be. I got a buddy who's making a movie. Well, he's already made it. It's called The Forest Hills. And I'm not going to say how much he was offered, but he was offered an amount. And with who he has in this movie, you would think that amount would be quite a bit larger. But
right.
that's the world we live in now. So it's these streaming has really altered the game in quite a unique way.
Yeah, I think obviously
not
COVID,
in the bet.
Yeah, COVID helped that as well. I mean, it's good in some ways and it's bad in others. Like it's there's a lot of like more independent stuff that's getting an eye on it, but then there's like some of the people that have made like the big Hollywood movies that are like, people will post like an image of like the residuals that they got from something, and it's like, this is from like this hit television show, and I made 14 cents. I think Lloyd actually just posted something. He got something, and it was a penny. A check for like a penny. And I'm like, oh my god, that sucks. Cheddar is awesome. I wonder why.
Yeah, I got a buddy at Michael Ray Bauer. He played Donkey Lips on Shorts. And
we're friends, but we know, he does videos with like Wet Movie One and stuff like that. Used to, anyways.
He showed me a residual as a penny. It costs more to send it to him. I just like it's nuts.
That's crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
but it's okay. It's like nowadays it's a lot easier to make a movie and get it out there than it's ever been. So that's really cool. But the downside is you're not making seven figures like you used to.
And also, everyone is making a movie, so you're going to have to wade through all of the stuff that's not great to find a gem. Hopefully, every once in a while that happens. Like I do a lot of digging. Like same deal. I'll look at thumbnails and be like, that looks interesting. I won't even read the synopsis. I'll just look at the thumbnail and I'm like, all right, that looks interesting. I'll give it a shot. And 20 minutes into it, I'm like, I'm done. Unfortunately. But I don't know. There's so much out there.
But everything changes now too, because now you do have social media that back then you never had to promote your work and stuff. So if you get a following, which the beauty we've mentioned it many a times on here, that the horror community is a little bit different than everything else. We believe because especially if they back you. No matter what you do, they're always the next thing you make, they're always gonna follow you, throughout your career and whatever. So, being that social media, it's a what do you want to call it? Not catch-22, but it could be a beautiful thing and a horrible thing at the same time. But at least you have that option. Back then, it's like all you would see is movie trailers, and that's about it. Then websites came along, but now you could post it everywhere and people will probably see at least something from it.
Well, hopefully. There's also a lot of, I'm sure you guys both see it as well, like on TikTok or on Instagram. There's people that I've followed for a very long time and they post regularly and I have to go search them out to see what they post because they never come through my feed. For some reason, they just don't. If they'll ask me, like I went to see a band out in Boston, maybe like a month or so ago, and they're a punk band. It's all female. They don't have a guitar player. They have an accordion player. All their music's in Spanish. I don't understand a word they say. The music's really good though. And like, how did you hear about this? And I'm like, because they came from New York, and I'm like, Instagram. And they're like, did you see our post about it? And I was like, no, I had to go find it. Like I keep looking because you guys keep posting like cool videos and stuff like that. So I always, every once in a while, I'm like, I want to see what they're up to, And I saw you were coming to Boston. So it stinks. Like they're putting tons of stuff up. I just never see it. It's all this other like ads for like stuff because I searched for something on Google a month ago. That's the unfortunate thing that's going on right now. It's going on. It's been going on for a while, I guess, but it just seems more obvious to me. I don't know. What are you going to do, right?
Yes.
Well, if you're saying who's that, who is who? Who's our guest? Is that what you're asking? Where have you been? Anyways, let's continue. He's up in Washington State being like, they have tornadoes. What's going on? So like growing up, like besides Trauma, we know you like Trauma. The band. I'll tell you about it later. I can't pronounce their name. He's asking what the band was. But was there anything that like sparked your interest? Besides the low budget, fun, schlocky stuff. Like, do you remember the first time you're maybe early on in your life where you're like, this is something I definitely want to give a shot, or this looks like it was a really good time, or something?
I mean, back in the day, I mean, like my mom was into everything, and I mean, her favorite actor was Dustin Hoffman, so we watched Tootsie and The Graduate all the time. So I mean, I'm actually named after Dustin Hoffman. That's why I'm named Dustin. So Back to the Future was her favorite movie. Well, that and my mom was one of the last of the disco people. She couldn't let disco go. So we had Saturday Night Fever playing all the time. So those are the movies that I really grew up on. And then, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't until I got to work at the movie theater and actually build these films and screen them. Because back then you had to build the movie and then you had to watch it. So I watched so many movies. So that started to, and I was working with people. The other movie projectionists were going to school for film as well. And the head movie projectioner was a filmmaker that was a teacher at the University of North Dakota. He ran their film department. So having all these conversations with all these guys, and then watching all these movies, that's where my real love of this came from. And that's when I was like, I've got to work in this industry. That's what I have to do. That's
pretty sick. I know it's completely different now, like the way that things are done in the movie theater. But yeah, I would have been all about that when I was younger. It's one of those things. Again, it's I wish I did it, but I just didn't.
I got a friend. She owns a movie theater down here in South Carolina, and it's wild from what we did in the early 2000s to what they do now. Because back then, you would we'll use Star Wars Episode 3. It was one of the last movies I built. It came in 8 reels, right? And you had to take the reels off, splice them all together, splice in the trailers, put it on the platter. You're talking like 4 or 5 hours worth of work. And now they just get a hard drive in the mail and they pop it in the server and they're done.
The best thing is it's going to be way harder for someone to sneak out his giant platter filled with Star Wars than a friend of mine worked at a movie theater in my area, and like one of the hard drives went missing. Like someone stole the hard drive or whatever, and there was some people lost their jobs over that, for sure.
Yes, don't. There's no point to steal those hard drives, y'all. There's a key that you need from the studio to unlock it, so it's pointless to steal.
That's exactly what he said. He's like, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. I don't know. Maybe they just want to have it there. Like, I don't know. Yeah, Wolfie's saying, "Gotta love a mom that loves movies." His mom was a movie buff as well. She took him to see The Exorcist when it was in the theater for the first time around. He was like 5 or 6 or something like that. Like I mentioned, he's very old.
My mom was this. So my mom had me in high school, so she's very young. So I did at like 3. I was watching It, Poltergeist, Godzilla. I mean, she didn't care. She just let me watch whatever. But I think it helped. It helped my love of the industry. And now that I'm a parent, I'm sitting here like, should I be showing him?
How old is your kid?
He's almost 5 months old.
Don't do that. You're gonna
but the 82 Poltergeist, it's rated PG.
I know, but I do have to say, like, if you want to guarantee that he's never going to want to clown at his birthday, maybe you show him Poltergeist. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie, but my friend Bill, his son just turned 8, and he's slowly getting him into some stuff. And like once a week, he'll like, "Hey, we watched Big Trouble in Little China." I'm like, "Oh, how do they like it?" And he's like, "Oh, he like stuff like that." I'm like, I'm just jealous. I wish that my dad was really cool, and he loves movies. He got me into a lot of stuff that I'm into. But when I was growing up, it wasn't as easy to get these movies. I remember having to go rent movies over and over again because it was too much money to buy them.
Oh yeah.
Like as a kid back in like the 80s, the first movie I ever bought was on VHS was Ghostbusters, and it cost me $35 on VHS. Back then, that's a lot of money for a kid. There's only so many times I can clean out the garage.
Right.
So, it's it was a different time. It almost made it maybe feel a little bit more special, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
Yeah, it was. We had our rituals too. Every Friday night, we go up to the gas station and we'd rent 5 movies because it was rent 5 movies for 5 nights for $5.
Oh wow!
So we did that, and then every single Saturday we were doing double features at the local movie theater every Saturday, like clockwork.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we were always watching a movie. So.
Yeah, my dad, he's in his 80s, and he's got plenty of stories. Like we're actually going to go see that new that movie that's about Dracula, or being transported on the boat. I forget.
Oh, the like Nosferatu-ish.
Yeah, exactly. We're
Yeah.
supposed to go see that. I think it came out today, so I think we're going to go see that maybe this weekend. But he has all these stories about like the William Castle films, like being in the theater when the seats would shock you, or like the ghost would just fly through on a string, stuff like that. And he's like, same deal. It's totally just like, he's like, yeah, I would pay like $0.25 and be there for the entire day. Him and his sister went to the movies. This was in Worcester, Mass, like way back in the day. They were in there all day long. And when they got out, the other side of the street was completely destroyed because a tornado had come through and tore up one side of the street and left the other one completely fine. And they were in the movie theater the whole time watching movies. They had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, that's cool. Like, I don't know. It seems neat.
My grandma, I also get my grandma obviously was obsessed with films. She was way more obsessed with science fiction though, which is where I get my love for science fiction. My love for Star Wars and Star Trek. But she would always tell me that, yeah, me and your grandfather back in the day, 25 cents, that would get us into the movie, that would get us our popcorn and our drinks. And I'm just like 25 cents. Yeah. If I take someone out now, it's like $80.
My friend Scott was just saying, we were talking on this past weekend, and he took his 2 kids to the movies, 3 people to get in, small popcorns for everyone, small drinks for everyone. And it was over $140. That's crazy.
It's insane now. It's so wild. And then they want to know, wow, why is no one going to the movies? We can't afford it.
So because no one else goes, they just up the price of everything else. So like they have to make up for this, because theaters make most of their money off of concessions anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, theaters make all their money almost. They only get like, I think 10% of this the movie tickets. And a lot of theaters, especially independent theaters, they make them do what's called a guarantee buy. So like if you get like the new Turtles movie, that theater might have to chuck out $500 right up front.
Oh wow!
Before they even sell a single ticket. So,
well, if it means anything, I actually really want to see that movie. I don't know why I want to, but I do. It looks fun. I don't know. So, Wolfie answered our question. The last voyage of the Demeter or something like that.
Demeter, yeah. It's basically, it looks like it's. So if you watch Nosferatu, there's the scene where they're transporting Nosferatu from Transylvania to England or America or whatever, and I guess this is supposed to be what happens in between or something.
Yeah, it's so you're on a boat that's got Nosferatu or Dracula or whatever, however you want to say it, on the boat, and nighttime comes around, and what happens at nighttime? So it's basically these people that are just trapped on a boat, and he's just like
eating them, and
that's why it's the last voyage, because they ship it back. So it looks really fun, but that's one thing you mentioned. Like he's mentioning second run theaters and stuff too. We have a lot of those around here, and that's we frequent those more than we do the big ones for sure, because they always have the best popcorn and they're always the best prices.
Oh yes, I've got a art house theater here in Charleston. It's called The Terrace. Their popcorn it's I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but I feel like food in general has changed over the past 20 years, like the taste of it. Yeah. But even when you go to a movie theater like a Regal or AMC, their popcorn just tastes awful. But The Terrace, their popcorn still tastes like the Carmike popcorn did back in like 98.
Yeah, probably just loaded with like tumors or something. You're not going to survive it, but it's going to be delicious on the way out. The one in my area during the pandemic, when they couldn't be open, to stay afloat, like they would during the weekends just be open for popcorn.
Oh, yep.
So it was a drive-through. You'd pull up, you'd tell them what you want, they would bring it out to you. Then we just pull out lawn chairs, sit in the parking lot, and just sit far away from each other and eat popcorn and whatever. It was fun. Then he started where you could rent out the theater, like with the people for like $100. It was awesome. It was great.
They started doing a lot of the theaters down here they rented out parking lots or used their parking lots, and they would get those inflatable screens, and they would do drive-in, which was awesome. I think they should still keep doing that.
Do you not have a lot of drive-ins out there?
No, we've got one, which is a shame. If you've never been to a drive-in, they're amazing. It's the best way to watch a movie. And it saddens me that at one time in America there was over 500 of these things, and now there's probably 100, if that. So, it's very, very depressing. One of the first times going to the movie theater for me was a drive-in.
We used to go all the time. There's lots of movies that the first movie would be like a kid-friendly movie, and the second one not so much. So my parents go to sleep. But I saw there was it Sheena. It was like a female Tarzan kind of movie.
Oh, yep.
I saw that along with Christine. My dad took me to see that as a child.
Christine's okay. I mean, I would show my 5-month-old that now.
Right, but I'm saying, as a kid back in the day when you weren't like seeing all this stuff as readily available, and you're just a kid with an overactive imagination, you're like, all right, I'm going to force myself to fall asleep now. But yeah, there's that, and whatever. My only problem is we've gone. It was my own fault for going to this because it's a bullshit movie. The Suicide Squad. We went to see that at the drive-ins, and I was more upset because people just wouldn't shut their cars off because they didn't want to sit outside in weather. It's too muggy, so they had their car on with the AC blaring. I'm like, you're giving no one else a choice. Now we all have to do this because we can't hear anything that's going on. Whatever. It sucks. Then the bugs.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but we still have a bunch around here. A good handful, and they are pretty great. And it's a good time. And we have a couple places that like an old shutdown mental institution where they shot some stuff for Shutter Island, and they'll do a screening of that there, right outside.
Oh yes.
Pretty cool.
They do that down here. So The Notebook was filmed here in Charleston, and The Patriot. So they'll do that every now and then. They'll set up one of those inflatable screens down in Cypress Gardens. So if you watch The Patriot or The Notebook, all those swamp scenes, that's filmed at Cypress Gardens. So they'll literally set up the screen right in front of the swamp, and then we'll sit there. And it was crazy. When we did The Notebook a few years back, I kid you not, an actual alligator ended up walking in front of the screen.
Holy
and
shit.
It just laid there. So the crew that was running the event, they took yellow caution tape and they just made this barricade around the alligator, and they left it there. So we watched The Notebook with an alligator.
I wouldn't be watching The Notebook at all. I'd just be watching that tape. If that shit moves, I'm out. They just followed it around just with the tape, just whatever.
Well, they had a couple of the crew guys set up chairs, one on each side, and they watched him. So just in case if he did dart off,
that's the worst job ever.
Yeah, it was.
He just gave me a rundown of movies that he saw in the drive-in. So he saw The Omen, Game of Death, Friday the 13th, 1 and 2, Race with the Devil, and The Howling at the drive-in.
All amazing. Game of Death. Oh, there you go.
There you go, sir. And Sergio reminded us that it's about time to go. And I haven't shut up much, so I apologize. So where can people go to follow your exploits and your new podcast and what you have going on with your movies and stuff?
So I'm on TikTok every single day, Nerdy Dustin 2.0. You can follow me on Instagram with Nerdy Dustin. You can find me on Letterboxd. Same thing, Nerdy Dustin, and Movies After Dark, the podcast. We're currently only on Spotify. We are working on getting on the other platforms. We literally just started this podcast a month ago, so it's still all brand new. That's where you find me on IMDb, Dustin Vitale. Malcolm should be on Amazon Prime and in theaters in October. So I know if you're off the top of my head, if you're in Atlanta on October 28th, we're doing a special premiere for Malcolm at the Plaza. So all the actors and a lot of the cast and crew will be there for that. And then on October 27th, if you're in Walterboro, South Carolina, We're going to be at the Ivanhoe Family Theater doing another event for it, which will be me, the main actor that plays Malcolm, Alex Joveo. He'll be there. And then Chadwick, the director of the film, will be there as well. And I think Johnny Ray, he's the other director of the film, will be there. So, yeah.
So actually, before we continue, Life is Pain is saying, awesome live, guys. Tell Dustin to bring his podcast to YouTube.
We're working on that. We have been yelled at so many times by everyone.
He pays for YouTube Premium. I wish my wife would let me do that. I can't.
Yes, we will be on Apple Podcasts and we will be on YouTube. We're working on that now. It's a process because a lot of us don't have a lot of time in our schedules for things. So
as far as like setting up the video side of it and stuff like that, we can talk afterwards. It'll be way easier than you think. So that would be cool. Yeah, bring it to YouTube. Like it's weird. Like we get more interaction with the audio podcast than we do with the video podcast by far. But I don't understand it. Like I don't get it. It's like, but you can come and ask questions, and like people just like, I'm just gonna wait a week and then listen to it. And you yell at it, be like, hey, answer this. I don't know. But I don't know. I just wish more people did the live thing because I think it's fun, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question because Kevin had every question.
Yeah.
But did you find it just because of the success of Terrifier and Terrifier 2 and stuff? Well, Terrifier 2 first and then Terrifier. Did you find it a little easier to get your film? Because I know a lot of independent horror movies usually don't get the light of day and get to be put into the theaters. Do you think that might have helped, or did you already have everything planned out beforehand?
No, getting in the theater, that's we had a lot of that we had planned out, and it helps right now that the industry's on strike. But it is a pain to get your movie in any movie theater. It's not easy. It's a lot of being on the phone. It's a lot of negotiating. It's a lot of, if you're not part of the big five, it is extremely hard to get your movie into a theater. I have a buddy who was able to actually get his movie into AMC during the pandemic. And again, because of the situation, it was a little easier, but it still took him 3 months to negotiate that. So it takes a long time and it's a pain. But at the end of the day, if you're a filmmaker, that's where you want your movie watched the most. That's the whole experience, right? You want it in a theater. So
it's a completely different experience. Like whatever you think about Skinamarink, I know a lot of people don't like it. I enjoyed it. I saw it on this monitor, and then a little while after we went to see it in the theater, me and Angel, and we both liked it so much more in the theater than we liked it.
Yes, I watched that for the first time on my phone, and then I watched it in theaters, and I got lucky too because I was the only one in the movie theater, so that added to the expense.
Oh, really?
But I love that film. From a filmmaker standpoint, that shit is the I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, by the way. Sorry.
Totally.
That film is amazing. The cinematography in that film is amazing. I love every shot.
Right. Yeah, I agree, and it's one of those things that I'm like, I have friends, like I've had friends like tell them, make sure you're in a pitch dark room, put your cell phone in another room, so that way you're not distracted, and just like your eyes are going to mess with you. They're totally going to mess with you. When we went to see it, it was actually a pretty packed theater, and I had said that the last time I heard a theater like that quiet during a movie was with Blair Witch Project. And it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like, oh my God. I'm like, so did you like it? Like, I don't know, but I think I loved it. Like, they were like, people just were unsure, And we've had Jamie Hill on. She was the mom in that. She's been on.
That's amazing.
She shows up in the chat every once in a while as well. But
Blair Witch will never have that experience ever again. That is the greatest time in a movie theater.
And who's in the chat hates that movie. Whatever. Anyway,
don't get me wrong. It does not hold up. It is a terrible movie.
Yeah. For the time, though. Yeah.
In 1999, when you went to the movie theater and saw that, and you thought it was real, that added to that expense. You were just like,
Texas Payne is saying that for Skinamarink, that it's very grainy on Shudder. That's how it is. That movie cost.
It cost
like $16,000 to make, something like that. But But yeah, that's the whole thing. When you watch it, like your eyes, you think you're seeing things and you're not, or maybe you are. Like you don't know.
Yeah, that's the whole point of that film.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
it's different, and that's what I love. I, as a filmmaker, as a consumer, I love a film that is different. That's why the Raker House. I didn't make the Raker House. I came on board later on that film, and I came on because I watched it and I was like, wow, I have to be a part of this. It's the most different thing I've ever seen in my life. So,
nice.
yeah, I love it.
Cool. So, Tony, where can people follow you besides TikTok?
Well, Tony has 9 Fingers on YouTube. I don't post on as much as I used to, but Tony has 9 Fingers on YouTube where I do movie reviews, unboxings, anything movie related. Tony has 9 Fingers on X, which I hardly ever use.
Yeah.
Tony has Tony's Movies on Instagram where I show off the movies behind me. Tony has 9 Fingers on TikTok where it is the most the biggest or quickest growing social media that I had. So that's where I stick to the most. And of course here, most Tuesdays, whether we have an awesome guest or it's just horror movie talk here on the Wicked Horror Show, everyone should watch it and listen to it and then watch and listen to it at the exact same time. Try to sync it up.
Try to match it up like that whole Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz thing. It's
Chadwick, thank you so much, bud. Dude, you made an amazing film, and I can't wait for people to see it. I really can't.
So maybe actually after it comes out, maybe we can have him on, maybe the both of you on.
I'm down with that. I love Chadwick. He is an amazing dude. Y'all would love him.
Cool. I'm down for that too.
So Kevin, what about you?
Just a knuckle on Instagram. Besides doing this and doing That Strange Show with Angel, which is also on the Dorkening Podcast Network. I'm also part of Black and White Fright, and now we're filming. We're recording the Re-Education of Nancy Ann Ritter with Nancy Ann Ritter, who played one of the girls in the bathroom that was talking shit. But yeah, she doesn't know a lot about horror, so we're teaching her. We're just making her watch these movies that she's never seen. The one we watched last night, she's like, "You've scarred me for life." I'm like, "Cool, it worked then. Hooray!"
Oh, did you show her Pink Flamingos?
No, I'll talk about it after. It's nothing crazy. It's one of my favorite. Pink Flamingos was a good time. No, I'm a John Waters fan as well.
These movies are way too weird for me.
Oh yeah,
I love it, John. I love it.
They're so out there. Divine, eating dog shit. Oh man.
There's a scene of Malcolm that everyone's gonna, if you like Pink Flamingos, you're gonna love a scene of Malcolm.
Oh nice. Oh, if that doesn't bring in Amazon in October, I don't know what will. All right. Well, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Bye everyone.